You're watching SciByte, Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly science podcast, and we did this one live on January 31st, which matches our episode number, which is also 31. My name is Chris, and joining me, like every single week, is Heather. Hey, Heather.
Hello there, Chris.
Hey, it's good to see you actually in person this week.
Yes. Person's faces.
When we brought back SciByte, we decided we'd go with an audio show that sort of has like what we call audio enhanced, where there's a visual guide that goes with it that you can follow along, but it's not really a core video show because we want it to be an audio show. That's what's great, but we know so many of you folks love the video format that once a month we craft a video-specific episode packed full of visual goodies for you, but of course we also release that one in audio format for download as well. We've got a ton of feedback in this episode.
We do.
What else do we have coming up?
We have Legos in space, dinosaur feathers, spacecraft updates, breaking science news, some viewer feedback, like you were saying. As always, take a peek back in history and up in the sky.
Oh, always my favorite part. And the feedback this week, we've saved some of the video questions that people have sent in just for our video version of SciByte. That'll be coming up later on. Heather, we probably have too much show. We probably
Yeah. I'm gonna have to make sure that I don't dawdle. I have to stay right on task.
We gotta stay on target. Stay on target, Heather.
In this science.
All right, well, let's move on to the news then. All right, well, our first news story is the Lego Men in Space story. You want to tell us about this one?
Sure. A couple of Canadian teenage boys had a weather balloon, and they had a styrofoam box, and they put it, some camera equipment and a little Lego man on the end of a little board with a little Canadian flag, and they let it go into the sky, and it floated way up, and then it came down, and they tracked it. And so, all the major media outlets are like, Legos in space, and going crazy.
Legos in space! So this was a school project?
No, it actually wasn't. It wasn't a school project. It wasn't homework. They just did it.
Oh, okay.
It's cool.
I got to be honest, in my peripheral understanding of the story, I actually just thought it was a school project. So what are some of the, what are some of the, I don't know, has this ever been done before? Is there anything where you just attach something to a balloon like this? Is this an unusual event?
No, weather balloons go up all the time. I mean...
Well, sure, balloons do, but what about having things attached to them like this?
Yeah, I mean, weather balloons are literally being put off, and they're taking weather data. My company, we've had some of our experiments go up on weather balloons, other balloons that are bigger. I mean, these, you say weather balloon, but these balloons, when they're, all the way expanded, they're 20 feet in diameter.
Oh, okay. So they can probably carry a load.
Yeah, and they can go up to about 25 miles high. So
now, is 25 miles, is that considered out in space?
Not really. Now, space versus atmosphere isn't so much a defining line. It's more like one kind of blends into the other. Yeah,
especially in this video we're watching here, there's sort of like a gradient layer of the atmosphere. You can kind of see it just sort of fades off into space.
The atmosphere just kind of gets thinner and thinner and thinner.
Mm-hmm.
But there are points that most of the community says, all right, yeah, we're going to accept this as the line that goes into space.
Okay. But 25 miles, not quite it.
Not quite it. Generally, I mean, commercial airliners fly at about 30,000 feet or so. And there have been, there's even sightings of birds at that height.
Okay.
Yeah, actual birds. Not very often, but there have been actual, birds fly at that level.
If I was a bird, I'd fly as high as I could, too.
Fly high in the sky.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, I mean, there's some sort of agreed upon level, and then NASA gives in a little astronaut wings to anyone who goes over a certain level. But this particular balloon didn't hit anywhere near those.
No, but there was a pilot who sort of was raising concern that the balloons could end up being sort of a collision. So they are getting up into airplane territory at least.
Yes. Well, with any of these, that atmospheric winds take into a lot of consideration. And generally any of these big packages, I know any of these big experiments that my company has set off, anything bigger than a certain size, we have to call the local airport. We have to make sure that we have actually had DIA stop air traffic in a specific area of the sky, and we're given a window. We have to wake up at dark o'clock and go out and they say, all right, you have this 45-minute window. Launch or go home. And you launch during that time, and you go, and they've diverted planes around that area. So there is some sort of concern about, you don't want to just willy-nilly kind of put these larger balloons up into the sky.
Right, and that is sort of the significance here, isn't it? Because you have two 17-year-old Canadians who are able to just take some helium and the right materials and then send this thing up. So this would theoretically, I mean, they could have attached surveillance cameras to that. They could have attached their own independent GPS system to that, or communication systems.
They had a GPS-enabled phone, which is partially how they found it.
Ah, well, see, doesn't this set an interesting precedent now? Who has access to that kind of airspace and that kind of technology? The bar just got lowered a lot.
Yeah, I mean, all it really requires is one of these weather balloons, helium, and then like a styrofoam box stuffed with the various equipment that you want, with a couple little hand warmers, because it gets mighty cold. And cameras and such do not particularly like the cold at that level.
Right. Huh. So I guess people must have been able to see this from the ground, right? Or is it too small?
Too small. They'll be able to see it go up to a certain level, and then they could have followed it with binoculars for a little while, but this balloon is very tiny. I mean, my companies have ones really large, a different kind of balloon that just get really large, and there is no spotting it after a little while. I mean, one or two people can kind of follow it in binoculars, and they're like, nope, gone, no more.
So it's totally down to instrumentation at that point, then.
Yeah, it's completely down to instrumentation, how you track it. These GPS-enabled phones help this kind of thing a great deal. Otherwise, for these GPS-enabled phones, it's strictly radio beep. You're trying to locate a radio beep, and at one point you're literally holding a little reader, and you're like holding it this way and that way, trying to get the radio signal, and you're like, aha! So you have a team over there and a team over here, and you're both you're zeroing in, you're triangulating where your little thing is beeping.
Style. That's Sputnik style.
Yes,
from
and
the
hoping
early
that
days.
it hasn't landed so that it's transmitting into the ground, and the ants can find it, but you can't.
Oh, jeez. But truth be told, these aren't the only Legos in space, are they?
No. There's Legos much higher. There are Legos in the space station that are pretty much there all the time. So they're not like, they weren't technically Legos in space, and they weren't the highest flying Legos, but it's more of a major media news outlet to say, hey, two teenagers put a Lego into space.
Right,
Ding!
right. Maybe this is like a Jupiter Broadcasting SOPA plan B, right? If SOPA and ACTA get passed and our stuff starts getting pulled down all the time, maybe we could launch like Jupiter Broadcasting weather balloons. Hell, you know what we could do is we could open source the development kit, and then people around us could set it up for us, and then they could blast it up in their area.
Put it on little CDs and loose them into the sky on a whole bunch of balloons, and they'll go all over the place.
Yeah,
they'll land in people's backyards.
Right,
like,
totally.
Hey, watch me.
Any other thoughts on this story?
No, I mean it's kind of achievable that two teenagers did it, but it's not all that unachievable. But it is inadvisable to just do it off the top of your head.
Yeah, it sounds like they would start cracking down on people if that happened. People started.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. All right. Well, then I have a brief message from ourselves, actually. No official sponsor this week, so I wanted to give a mention to Star Trek: The Next Generation, The Next Level. And this is this is a taste of the TNG and HD that they've done. Have you seen this thing?
Oh, yes, this one.
And of course, it's for sale on Amazon right now. And if you're thinking about picking it up, we'll put a link in the show notes and we'll get a percentage of your purchase. I haven't watched this. I literally got it right before the show started.
I see the plastic wrap on it.
I know, it's so exciting. So it's got Encounter at Farpoint, Sins of the Father, and The Inner Light. There's some, like they have before and after examples on here. Scenes never before seen. I am so excited about this. All redone visual effects, because all the visual effects were on video and they had to remake them. And, it's $15. It's to kind of see what people think. And of course, if you're a Star Trek fan, it's just a must get. Now, most of you probably already have it, but if any of you stragglers are still looking to pick it up, you could support Jupiter Broadcasting by purchasing with the link in our show notes, because we do get a percentage of that. All right, now that was all of the plug-in I had. I have it right here. I'm going to, when we get done tonight, I'm going to take it out after I get done editing, and I'm going to open it up, and I'm going to put it in my PS3, and I'm going to watch it. I'm going to watch
everyone feel the excitement through the internet.
So
in the recording,
I know, right?
Through.
It is. It's a little oozing. I'm sorry. So I invite you guys out there to do the same, because you never know. It might just be a great experience. All right. Should we move on? Are you ready for the SciByte News Bite. What do we have up first?
Dinosaur feather colors.
Now what?
Yeah, not quite dinosaurs, but people may have seen the Archaeopteryx. The big flying bird that the museums put, well, lizard type thing that the museums hang up on the ceiling. And they
sure.
Yeah, they actually have some feathers we've seen in fossils. But now we have a fossil that they were actually able to look under a microscope and actually analyze it and tell the pigment color of the feather itself.
Oh, wow.
So
that seems like the kind of science that is in the future. It's not here today, where you can go back to something that's been locked in stone for how many thousands or millions of years, and get the color from it. That's awesome science right there. How do they do this?
So they're able to check there's evidence of there's various rod-shaped nubbins and specific structures that indicate one type of feather to another. Black feathers are generally kind of more sturdy, the more likely to be able to hold up in some sort of flight mechanism. And so it's the kind of pigment variation that's similar to blackbirds, not necessarily brown or gray. It's the melanosums.
Not melanoma, not
melanomes.
Okay.
Yeah, I butchered that completely.
Hey, could you imagine me trying to do it?
And who knows?
Yeah, I know, but could you imagine how offended they'd be if I tried? All right, so this is kind of interesting. So these are feathered dinosaurs, is what you're telling me.
Sort of. Not completely feathered. The wings weren't completely feathered. They just have some feathers. And wouldn't even be able to sustain flight via just the feathers. Probably more of a glider, kind of a clumsy flyer. So it tries its best. I mean, the feathers style, the black feathers, they're pretty tough. But this probably doesn't follow if the bird actually be able to fly, or dinosaur.
Still pretty amazing stuff. And
yeah, they're able to figure out the color.
And also, just could you imagine how scary the concept of a flying, even if it's a large prehistoric type animal, the fact that it could. Okay, you say it's just a glider. Okay,
that's it's just like gliding down to eat you. It's no big deal.
Yeah, that's kind of like saying, well, bats only have lasers. You know, I mean, it's very scary. I could not imagine these big creatures gliding down to come and get me. Yeah, bats with freaking lasers. All right, do you want to move on to this old photograph we have? Or it's not an old photograph, but
yeah, well, sort of.
It's like the plates of an old photograph, right?
Yeah. Astronomy has been using photographic plates. They put some light-sensitive emulsion, silver salts, they apply it to a glass plate, and they're able to expose the starlight to these plates to get space photographic evidence. These things were actually used into the 1990s until CCDs came along, and then they were able to take direct digital readings from telescopes.
Okay.
So they've got a whole bunch of these plates still that are sitting around. So they're trying to go back and digitize them. So they're trying to take them out, digitize them. And so this is a century's worth of astronomical photographic plates. They're able, and through these long variations, they're able to check on some variable stars. These are stars that change brightness, and generally on a specific scale, a specific pattern. Some in seconds or minutes, others in days, hours, or months. But these long period variable stars, they're able to actually see them through this century's worth of data.
Oh, that's amazing, because they have multiple different plates that they can go pull from, so they can get they can go way, way back. They can get a whole range of time now.
Yeah, and through this, they're able to see whole new variations of these variable stars that they're trying to figure out. And sort of this old plates, glass plates, are sort of bringing up new science ideas of, what is this doing? Why are these doing this? So it's like 500,000 glass plates of data that they're digitizing to get all of this data. And this is just one specific star. So it's as they digitize all of these, it's what else are we going to be able to find?
Now that what I find interesting about that is it's sort of like they've been able to go back to, perfect example, Star Trek: The Next Generation on Blu-ray. with film, they're able to go back and the original film resolution is higher than high definition, so they can go back and get more detail and bring it up again. Now they're able to go back to these glass plates and they can bring forward more detail and get more information about things from these plates. Now that we're going all digital, are we forfeiting that ability in the future? I don't understand how that works entirely.
Well, I mean, going to these photographic plates, you can take the raw data. It's like when I was in college, we could take the raw image data, and take out all the noise. And then you could sit there with the contrast and the various filters to kind of bring out things that you couldn't necessarily see. So in these plates, we'll be able to, increase the contrast greatly so that we can see more things from these plates possibly. But
there's
in digital data. Go ahead.
Interesting point that the Gibson's making in our chat room. By the way, SciByte is live over at jblive.tv on Tuesdays at 7:30 p.m. He's mentioning that when they digitize the plates, they can bring them in and sort of apply like a search engine indexing type service to the plates. So then they're able to go, boop, 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 I want this star at this time, and it'll just bring it forward for them. Now, talk about a massive leap in terms of research time reduction, right? I mean, talk about shortening that from having to go back and dig through the archive to now just typing a query into the computer.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So that's interesting. So I think the Gibson sounds like he's in the chat room. Sounds like he's done some works with this. He calls them astro plates. Is that real?
Nice.
Is that real? Because that's a great name if it is. The astro plates. Well, okay. Sorry to interrupt. Is there anything else you want to talk about on this?
No, it's just sort of an interesting story that I thought I'd bring up and had a little bit of visuals to it.
Definitely, yeah. And also, if you're listening to the audio version, we will have links to the visuals in the show notes. So don't feel left out. It is a visual heavy episode, but that's okay. All right. Well, that's all I have in the news bite, right? Do you want to move on to the calendar?
Yes, let's move on. The calendar's in a slightly different.
Yeah, you're right. It is kind of different. That's okay. I'll let you.
It's a different place this time.
You drive. Okay, so our first thing is we're going to actually we're going to look back, right?
Yes.
All right. So let me get back in the hill. I'll set up the time machine. All right, I got it here. Hold on, Heather. I'm getting it. Hold on. Okay, there we go. Wait. There we go. There. Oh, geez. I had to smack it. Sorry. It's getting a little old. I think it needs a tune-up. All right.
Yeah.
So what's the first thing the time machine's spitting out this week?
All right. Well, it's generally we try to keep the downers kind of down on SciByte. But
sometimes science has downer moments.
Yes. And this is a time that I felt it was important to bring the downers into place.
Okay.
NASA on the 26th marked its Day of Remembrance. Now, it just so happens that the anniversaries of all three of the major catastrophes that have happened, Apollo 1, Challenger, and Columbia, all happened within a week of each other in the calendar.
Wow.
So they kind of pick a day sort of in the middle and they say, let us remember the 17 astronauts that we've lost and all of the other members of the NASA family who have lost their lives for supporting the mission of exploration into space.
That's kind of a downer. It's my birthday. I'm just going to say it's a bit of a downer, but it's okay. It's all right. Okay. I think it's good they're doing that.
Yeah.
I remember both, well, at least I remember the last one vividly. I don't really remember the first one, but I remember the last not Challenger, the last Columbia explosion just like burned into my memory.
Yeah, I do remember Columbia. I was actually remember watching Challenger. I was a young little science person, but
Scienceling.
Yes, I was a young scienceling, but I did actually see that, watch it. I was, watching the news for Columbia. Was not there for Apollo 1.
Right. Well, yeah.
But, Apollo 1, there was a fire that broke out, and it just so happened that the hatch had to be pressurized, and they couldn't actually pull the hatch open because of the pressure difference.
Right.
And Challenger didn't actually explode. There was a ball of fire, which was the fuel igniting.
Right.
Because it was essentially different pieces of the fuel sensors busted each other apart, and there was a big, large fuel explosion.
Uh-huh.
And then Columbia, of course, as many people remember, was as the spaceship was going up, a piece of foam hit the wing, which allowed when they were re-entering hot gas to enter the wing, and catastrophic loss. Won't go in.
that was really tough because that was on their way home too. You know,
Yes.
it was like they just needed to make it to the ground. And
Yeah.
with the other one, it was while they were ascending. But I mean, that's
Yeah.
still a tragic loss. But it's so much more tragic when they're coming home.
Yeah, Apollo 1, it was actually a test. They were just kind of testing the system. They weren't actually about to launch. Challenger was just 73 seconds after the launch, and Columbia was 16 minutes from coming home.
Wow, 16 minutes.
It's some people may have heard, the families were out on the runway waiting for them to come home, and NASA representatives kind of had to come and bring them back inside.
Right.
So there are quite a few downers to this. Each time the space program shut down for a little while they examine what happened, make sure that that's not going to happen again, do what they can. For Apollo, the backup crew flew the next Apollo mission. And then the shuttle Discovery actually came back, was the first shuttle flight after Challenger and after Columbia. So it was the first shuttle to bring us back from both of those. There is a list of all the astronauts that were lost in the show notes. There were quite a few who it was their first flight. So they had never gone up before.
Right.
And among the Apollo 1 crew, you had the first astronaut who actually flew in space twice, the first astronaut who did an extra an EVA, an extra vehicle activity. But through all this, there's been various presidential speeches when it happens. Many people have seen the President Reagan speech after Challenger, which was a fairly powerful, and some people say his best speech. It was the State of the Union. He just pretty much said, not time for State of the Union. Let's focus on what needs to be focused on.
Right.
And so, but from all this, the Challenger, of course, was very educational oriented, and they have turned that into the Challenger Center, which is focused on educating the general public and kids specifically about space and how to turn this in. The families got together and say, how can we turn this into some sort of educational program that can go on?
Well, that's good. That's something that can kind of go on and inspire future generations to travel into space. That's probably, as sad as all of it is, that's the best outcome I think you could probably think of.
Yeah. Actually, Gus Grissom, one of the astronauts lost in Apollo 1, most of these astronauts, of course, all of them realize that something.
You mean Virgil? Virgil? Is that Virgil Grissom? Is that Gus was?
Gus Grissom.
Yeah, okay. There's a Virgil Grissom. Oh, Grissom, not Gussum. Gotcha.
Yeah. Grissom.
Okay.
And it's essentially saying in any experimental program, there is obviously sooner or later the chance for averages. You're going to run into the end of the line.
That's unfortunately true.
He says, I hope that it never happens, but if it does, I hope the American people won't feel it is too high a price to pay for the space program.
There's no price, I think, that's too high. I mean, you're talking about, this is hyperbole probably to most, but you think long term down the road, you're talking about the ongoing continuation of our species.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about, it's one thing when one of us dies, but when all of us dies, that's a much bigger deal.
Yeah.
And it's...
For any of this, cutting edge science, for the test pilots, which a lot of the Apollo astronauts came from, and they're setting new, speed records and developing new airplanes. And they know it is dangerous work. And every time they go up, they may not land again in the same.
Well, it's interesting though, right? Because you look at the risk and the ratio of loss we've had versus coming into other new frontiers like crossing the oceans and crossing from the east to the west, the Oregon Trail, all that kind of stuff. So many more lives during these original massive voyages were lost that now that we're doing it so much significantly safer that by comparison, it's a walk in the park. It's just that we're just attuned to much less loss in these sort of endeavors. But the reality is an endeavor of this magnitude, it just historically has always ended up resulting in the cost of some lives.
Yeah. And of course, these kind of things are obviously going to make, because they are so forefront and they have a lot of attention, they're very likely to bring a lot of news to the occasion. And, things that are become commonplace suddenly are not commonplace anymore. Everyone focuses on it and realize, oh yeah, this isn't just an everyday occurrence that happens a couple times a year.
Right.
This is something major. And every person in the space program, every single person, from the guy who's milling a part in some shop in blank city and blank state.
Right. All over the place.
Fill
really.
in the blank. They're all over the place. And everyone from that to the guy who plugs in the cable on the field, to the astronauts themselves, to the guy who put their little boots on, everybody is important.
Even the boot guy.
Even the boot guy. You have to seal them.
Yeah.
Everything has to be sealed in. And you kind of laugh, but it's true.
A leaky boot would mean the end of the mission. So it is important. It is important because a leaky boot is just as bad as a leaky helmet. Really? All right, should we move? Is there anything else you want to touch on? Because I know we got a lot more here.
We got a lot more here that is less downer, and you were very attempting to add the humor to it.
I am. You're right. Because, I don't want people to be sad when they watch, because it is a very heavy topic.
It is a very heavy topic, but I did feel it necessary to mention it and talk about it. And, have all the information in the show notes.
Yeah.
For those who are interested, or just as a memorial to the people.
Yeah. Yeah. Good links in there. And you've got videos, and you've got profiles of the different astronauts and things like that. So there's a whole bunch of stuff for people to check out. So is this something that they're going to do every year on the 26th? Or is it only they're going to do at certain milestones?
It is an anniversary, so it happens every year.
Well, I know, but do they do a big celebration every year, I guess is my question.
They do have a memorial every year. They have I believe they lay wreaths of flowers in various locations. I think generally the president is involved in some way at some location, not necessarily at NASA headquarters or anything. But, the various museums or anything affiliated with the space program really probably tries to do something on January 26th.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
Yep.
There you have it. Should we move on?
Yeah, we can.
All right, I'll get things in gear then. We've got a spacecraft update, don't we?
We have lots of spacecraft updates.
Okay, all right, lay it on me.
Okay, so it was an episode or two ago that, that the space station had to move because 2 satellites had crashed into each other a long time ago. It had to have again. It happened again.
Oh.
So last time it was from some 2009 satellite crash between a U.S. and Russian spacecraft. This time it was avoiding junk from a Chinese satellite that had a laboratory that it had happened in orbit.
Station currently flying over the southern Pacific Ocean.
There's a little audio from it there.
As you can see, the progress continuing to close. Now under 500 meters away.
Minus 135.
Yeah, that's awesome. Here, I'll turn it off so you can keep talking. So.
Yeah. No, it's okay.
Antennas have been activated.
So.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Yes. So, they had the 6-man crew on the station, 3 Russians, 2 Americans, and a Dutch astronaut. So they were all on board, watching very carefully. So they moved the station. It was just a couple minutes of burn, and to get to a different height, and they were much safer. And we've mentioned before, as always, they have cargo ships aboard that they can, should something get too close, they go in there for safety measure, close the door, and then should something catastrophic happen, they can ride their little boat home. It's a lifeboat.
It's an escape pod, Heather. Just call it an escape pod. It's an escape pod. Thank you.
There you go.
All right. So what about the no update on the SpaceX flight that got delayed, right? The first private flight?
No updates for them quite yet. There was a cargo ship that docked to the space station, delivered almost 3 tons of fuel, food, and supplies.
Oh, yeah. I'm looking at that guy right now.
Yep.
That's really cool. Okay.
So there are still things, obviously delivering things.
Right. They're not running out of goods.
No, they're not running out of goods. So SpaceX is just sort of an additional deliverer of food and supplies. So it's not like we said when we said they were delayed. It's not essential stuff, but it's kind of exciting that there'll be another outlet for delivering supplies and possibly bringing them back.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and the fact that it's just one more option, like you said.
Yeah, it's another option, and it's a private option this time.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's a good spacecraft update. Now you've got links to all of our previous spacecraft updates as well. We've done them for just about every episode since roughly around the early 20s.
Yeah. So any of these that have had updates before, I'll put the links in there to mention to see what we talked about last time about them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you want to move on to the feedback section?
2 other quick
Okay.
spacecraft updates.
All right.
Curiosity rover. It's still on its way to Mars.
Okay.
It's got the little radar radiation detection equipment, and it actually saw the coronal mass ejection that hit
the big
Earth
flare we talked about last week.
That's right,
yeah.
the big flare.
Yeah.
It actually brushed past it, and they're sort of downloading the data from that to get the radiation levels, and where it is in the spacecraft would kind of be what the astronauts would see. So they're trying to eke out all the data from this that they could to kind of see what would happen should astronauts on their way to Mars have this kind of a thing happen.
Right. What about our buddy Phobos?
Phobos grunt. Just when you think he can't come back, he does.
So are we still talking conspiracy theory here, shot down by the U.S. government?
No, not quite.
Oh, okay.
Russian scientists have come out and they said it was probably due to cosmic radiation, that something happened or a piece of equipment may not have been hardened for radiation in space. So some piece of equipment failed because of
now that's
cosmic
funny.
radiation.
The first people in space didn't shield something properly for space. Doesn't that something about that seem a little backwards?
Yeah. Well, it's very specific shielding, and if you get the right order in the wrong location, then they could ship something that somebody didn't necessarily know how to be hardened or treated in a specific way so that it could be launched into space.
Maybe Bilbo's right in the chat room. Bilbo says that they just need a good Cold War again to cook things up, and then the Russians will try a little harder.
Then they try harder. Poor Phobos grunt.
Sorry, guys. I didn't mean that if any of you guys are watching. So this is kind of embarrassing because this was heavily televised, like the whole launch of this thing and all of that. So the Russian media was covering it pretty heavily, and then it kind of bombed on them.
And like, shh, don't say anything.
So that's probably why they've been stretching to come up with a reason, since the media had such a focus on it. You got to give them something.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, no matter what, if something catastrophic happens or something goes quiet, you have an investigation. No matter what. I mean, we've had, Mars landers that have gone quiet suddenly. We assume they've crashed into the planet or zoomed off into space.
Right.
Or any of these that something happens, manned or not.
Right.
You investigate, you stop and you investigate, you figure out what happened because you don't want to repeat that. You want to know exactly what happened so that you can fix it and move on.
Right. Okay. All right. Okay. Now, are we ready to go on to the feedback?
Yes.
I'm excited about this because I think our first question is about your favorite movie, your favorite space movie, right?
Yes, it is.
I'm curious about that too. So what is it? What is your favorite space movie?
We're going to play our little question.
Oh, we have a video question for that one?
It is a video question.
Oh, that's right. In fact, it was sent in by a 10-year-old viewer, which is awesome.
Yep.
Yeah,
I will play about Space Camp before.
Yeah, here we go.
Hi, my name is Eliza. I am 10 years old. I have a question for Heather. What is your favorite space movie? It can be real or fake.
Oh.
Mine is Babylon 5. Bye.
Well, there you go. She likes Babylon 5. That's awesome. Well, thank you for sending that in. All right, Heather. So she voted Babylon 5. What say you?
All right. I hate favorites, so I'm going to cheat just a little bit here.
Okay.
2 favorites.
2 favorites?
I have 2 favorites.
Okay,
and
what's number 1?
everyone's going to blame me for these 2 favorites.
Okay, all right. What is it? I'm ready.
Barely slightly ahead, Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, The Empire Strikes Back, of course.
I mean,
all right.
Of the 3 movies, the first one, of course, lays a lot out. But Empire, if you think about it, has pretty much all of the great quotes.
Yeah.
It has, "No, I am your father."
Empire is so solid, it's not even funny. I mean, Empire is absolutely a winner in my book. I don't know if it's my favorite, though, but as far as the Star Wars movies, it's definitely a winner.
Yeah. And it's kind of interesting because as a young person, if you're watching them, you kind of realize the bad guys can win.
Oh.
The bad guys win. You're like, everything doesn't end up sunshine and lollipops every single time.
That's true. It does kind of have a dark ending, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Good point.
Then,
good point.
My other favorite, The Voyage Home.
Oh,
and I did not call it
whoa, sorry about that. This Voyage Home is one of my favorite, too.
Yes, I love this one.
Earth is on the edge of destruction.
And the whales will save
The
us.
key to saving the future,
Spock, you're talking about the end of every life on Earth.
Can be found only in the past.
We're going to attempt time travel. Sulu,
take us home.
These are the
I'm letting that play because they
voyages
show
of
my
crew
favorite
of the
part, the slingshot
Starship
around the sun.
Enterprise.
Judging by the pollution.
So okay, Star Trek: The Voyage Home features, of course, the world famous time travel scene where they slingshot that Klingon ship around the sun. So obviously, it's got some time travel elements to it.
Yep.
It's well known as having some comedy elements to it.
Yep.
What else do you love about this one?
Hello, computer.
Yeah,
Computer.
that is a good one.
I made sure I had my mouse just for that reason.
Good thinking. Yeah. The Scotty moment with the old Mac
Yep.
plus. Yeah, that's a classic moment.
The
Yeah,
one's
that's
walking
just
through the hospital. Here, take some of these pills. Doctor gave me pills and I grew a new gallbladder. Or whatever it was. I grew. And she's like dancing. The doctor's like, what's going on?
That is a great moment as well. A little commentary there on the state of our medical system in our sci-fi is never a bad thing. Star Trek. I think Star Trek: The Voyage Home was such a perfect ending to the Star Trek the Search for Spock, and then before that the Star Trek: The Wrath of Khan, which the writers didn't even intend to be a trio originally, but it just worked out so perfectly.
Yeah,
that I agree. I can't remember what else was really years ago. I don't remember what struck me as that movie, other than I just loved the whole having to save whales message of it too.
And everyone kind of thinks at one point or another that from Star Trek, I wonder if something happened, some awful accident, and they ended up getting me.
Right.
What happened?
Right.
And it's kind of funny that they let her just get on a spaceship because you think she'd need some debrief time to figure out that everyone she knew and their great-great-grandchildren aren't around.
Now, did you want to give honorable mention to Flight of the Navigator? Because I saw you have that.
I did some honorable mentions to my favorites when I was growing up.
Yes.
Flight of the Navigator. Love it. Want a spaceship to download crazy science into my brain. Thought that was the coolest thing ever. And the Explorers. Because those kids actually built their little spaceship.
Yes, that's right.
Not that it was necessarily realistically going to blast into space, but it was awesome.
Yes, I loved that. Absolutely. That is a very memorable one. We have another video question. You want me to roll that, or do you want to cover any other one?
Just real quick, for accuracy's sake, one of the ones that I wanted to mention is From the Earth to the Moon. It is an HBO television miniseries, but it is one of the most accurate, space movies that there are.
Okay. That might be worth checking out. I don't need to wait. I might check that one out. Okay.
Yeah.
From the Earth to the Moon. I like that. All right. Should we roll our next question?
Yes.
It's another video question, which is super
another
cool.
video question.
Hey, Chris and Heather. My name is Jacob, and I've been watching SciByte for quite a while now, and I noticed time travel seems to be a theme throughout several of the episodes.
Oh.
In particular, I've noticed that Chris usually throws in a jab about Star Trek 4, where they travel back in time to 1986 to try to save whales. Now, although it's funny to see that jab get thrown out there, and it's becoming a running pun,
all right, take a drink.
I'm curious as to whether or not the theory of slingshotting around the sun is based on any sort of scientific evidence. And if anybody would know, it'd be you guys. So, I hope you take the time to answer this question on the next video episode.
All right, so he's got me. He got me there. I do bring that one up a lot, but I've got a good reason. I love the idea that all it takes for time travel is a lot of speed and then just turning just so around the moon, and voila, you've the sun. Yeah, not the moon. Although, what if you use the moon to go into the future, right? The moon sends you to the future and the sun sends you into the past. So it just kind of depends on which direction you want to go. All right, I got to watch myself now. Now, every time I make that reference, I'm going to be like, oh, crap, he's got me.
It's a pun. It's like in the Chris brain cell. It's like it's connected to everything.
That's true. It all does come back to that. That's just how it is with me.
Well, you
so.
know.
He got me, though, and it's because I'm such a huge Star Trek geek. I can't help it.
It's okay.
Do you know, is it based on any reality?
There are two separate things to deal with here. There is the gravitational slingshot. Now you can shoot off, a probe and use a planet to sort of, you're essentially borrowing the energy, the energy from a planet in orbit. The Voyagers use this. So they kind of slingshot it around. They took a little bit of energy from Jupiter, from Saturn to get faster and faster. And that's why they're the farthest and nothing else can catch up to them. It's because they use these various slingshots. Others have used slingshots to various degrees between, Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars to kind of bounce back and forth between those. So there is that. That is real. Gravity assist.
That's probably where they pulled the at least origination of that from.
Yeah. So you have some sort of idea that orbiting or stealing this, something like this, you can go faster.
Okay. Maybe combined with a subspace modulator that is channeling power from your warp drive through your deflector dish, so that way you're creating a chronoton opening in front of you. Then you're using the speed from the Earth or from the sun's gravity.
Chris.
Yeah.
Science is hurting.
Sorry, science.
Is crying.
I'm sorry, science.
It's okay.
All right.
So the other part of this is there's some gravitational time dilation. I believe we've spoken about it before in a very early SciByte, where when you have, a gravity affected, something from the sun, it actually bends kind of space and time. So light passing by that or anything passing by that, depending on where you are, you can see things slow down or speed up. So there is
that's time travel. So that's time travel. You're saying the sun does have time travel.
Sort of.
Okay.
It's this old theory that, scientists will bring out or physicists will bring out. You have twins, you send one out on a spaceship, goes out a light year, 50 light years, comes back 50 light years. One of them is older.
Yeah.
So travel at the speed of light, going this way, travel at the speed of light, coming back. One is older. So there is a lot of different sort of things.
Yeah.
Whether they combine to send you to 1986, no.
It's just moments like this, Heather, that I have to sit here and remind myself that I'm just a monkey who's evolved far enough to do broadcast programming on the internet. And the fact that I don't fully grasp while light moving away from the sun has been slowed down slightly is perfectly okay.
You don't have to understand quantum mechanics or biology to know, your heart beats and when you drop a can of soup, it falls on your foot.
Besides, I leave all that to the robots who will surely enslave us because they will easily understand all of it.
Well, of course.
All right.
So now that'll be our fun for the next video question.
Yeah, do you want to let people know how they can send in questions to SciByte? And they don't have to be video, although they are awesome if they're video.
Yeah. We get email questions. You can send in audio questions. There's all sorts of ways to submit on the website. You can follow the submission page or just send us an email. And I've actually had some people say, hey, I am in this specific field. I would really like to help and submit stories.
Okay.
I've had quite a few people say that.
Cool.
If you would like to do that, go ahead, pick a link in a story or just some new common knowledge, send in a link to something so I can look at it and actually figure it out somewhat. Go ahead and send some commentary, sort of your thoughts on it, and it might show up in a show. We can talk about it very briefly or long, depending on how much I actually understand it, because I don't want to.
Depending on what it is.
Depending on what it is, depending on how much I understand it. I don't want to completely break your science, but I do want to bring it up if it is really important and if we can.
So send those into SciByte at jupiterbroadcasting.com, or you can visit the new contact page, which apparently people are loving. You go to jupiterbroadcasting.com, and right along the top right there is a contact button. When you hit that contact button, it'll ask you for which show and which topic, if it's okay to put it on the air, some of the basic questions like that, and then it sends it right off to the specified host. So that's a great way to do it as well.
And if you do send in a question, also kind of include the name that you want attached to it. Some people have their real name. Some people want to include their chat room handle or whatever they want to go by. Just kind of mention, I want to go by this, or don't mention my name.
Oh, yeah, you know what? Chat room handle would be really handy because we get that frequently in TechSnap as well. And it's nice if folks are watching while we do it. That way we can answer their questions right there in the chat room. All right, Heather. We have another breaking news story I think we should cover.
We do.
Do you like that? That's the
like
SciByte computer reporting. I have a little alert here.
Spitting out a little ticker tape.
Right. So here, I'll hand it to you here, and you can read all it. You can tell people what's going on.
So
very nice.
So I don't know everything about this. It is just breaking news, but there is some interstellar boundary explorer, IBEX, from NASA that has captured the best and most complete yet of the interstellar matter, the stuff between stars, outside of our solar system. It's actually able to kind of peek out. So they're, the big new media outlets are saying, we're able to see interstellar, what it's made of. And so it is bringing back some data. And there's some links in the show notes about where you can find out more information about that. So it may give us some new clues about how systems form, how galaxies change their shape, the history of the Milky Way. It'll give us some ideas of, more of what's going on.
Some really essential stuff there. I mean, that's exciting.
Yeah. So we're just starting to get back that data.
Okay.
So we'll have to see what it brings us in the future and tune in for later SciByte. Maybe you'll find out.
Yeah, definitely. We'll definitely keep that in there. All right. So that's the breaking story. Should we move on?
That is the breaking story.
Wow, that's exciting. All right. Then it's time to look up into the sky.
Yep.
What do we have coming up this week?
So, going back just slightly, mentioning the solar storm again, they have kind of figured out that it may shoot by all this energy, but it does also do something else for us. When you get those kind of flares, it makes the Earth's atmosphere get a little bit larger.
Huh.
So it kind of poofs it up just a little.
Gives it some extra junk, huh?
Gives us a little bit extra junk, kind of fluffs up. Now, all the debris that's in space, like the debris that almost hit the space station, or not almost, but was near it, it gets some friction from that, and it'll actually come down. So it sort of clears out the space junk around the Earth a little bit.
Interesting. Cleans us out, rinses things off.
Yeah, rinses things off a little bit, so it kind of picks up some of the lower stuff.
I had no idea. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, so there is so it might knock out communications, perhaps power grids, and leave us all in the Stone Age. But the plus side, Earth is looking sparkly clean, so that's good. It'll be good for the next people.
It won't take everything, but it'll clean us up a little.
Okay.
Okay.
What else is up in the sky?
Well, there's not too much exciting in the sky this week. No major planet sightings or, but Orion, which is one of the more, visible, identifiable constellations. It's got the 3 belt stars and 4, shoulder and hip bones for the guy.
Right. Yep.
So he's gonna sit below the moon this week. Mostly on Thursday will be the best time to see him, right below the moon, February the 2nd.
So after TechSnap, after I get done shooting TechSnap, I'll go out, and if I look out there
under the moon,
I'll see Orion.
Yes, you will.
And you say Thursday's the best day, but does that mean that there'll be a couple of day period you'll be able to see it?
Well, it sort of will swing by each other. That'll probably be the specific day that you can actually see it.
I gotcha. I noticed Jupiter was below the moon on Saturday, which was really cool to see that. So that was nice. So this Thursday, I'll be watching for Orion. There you have it. So Heather, is there anything else you want to cover? No? Did I lose you?
Sorry.
I did. No, it's okay. Is there anything else you wanted to cover?
No, I think that is the wrapper for this giant information science-packed video.
Yeah. We moved through it. I think the video aspect of it made us move a little faster because, the audio version, by the way, if you're just tuning in because of the video version, SciByte has an audio version that we do every single week over at jupiterbroadcasting.com. It comes out Wednesday mornings, and you can also subscribe to the RSS feed and just get it automatically so you don't have to worry about it. And those are always some great sciencey conversations as well, perfect for the commuter. But there's also a video version that has some visual guides that go right along with it. So, all right. Well, Heather, great show.
Great show.
All right, everyone. Well, thanks so much for tuning in to this week's episode of SciByte, and we'll see you right back here next week.